We are on the record for hearings in the matters listed in the North Dakota Industrial Commission hearing docket for Thursday, June 23rd, 2022. I'm Stephen Nelson, hearing examiner for these hearings. We are at the hearing room for the Department of Mineral Resources, Oil and Gas Division, and it is 9 o'clock a.m. The administrative docket starts, on the docket, the following matters will be continued and dismissed. Case number 29370 is continued to July. Case number 29310 is dismissed. Case number 29313 is continued to July. 29314 is continued to July, and case number 29364 is continued to July. Case number 29430 is dismissed. Case number 29431 is dismissed. Case number 29289 will be continued to July. Case number 29365 will be dismissed. On page 6, case number 29382 will be continued to July. Case number 29383 is continued to July. Case number 29384 will be continued to July. And case number 29385 will be continued to July. Case number 29386 will be continued to July. Page 9, case number 29388 will be dismissed. On page 10, case number 29389 was heard on May 26, 2022, and docketed for 6/23/22 in error. Case number 29329 will be continued to July. Case number 29330 will be continued to July. Case number 29320 will be continued to July. And case number 29401 will be continued to July. Case number 29402 will be continued to July. And on page 12, case number 29309 will be continued to July. The administrative docket starts on page 5 with case number 29432 and concludes on page 12 with case number 29309. These cases will be heard in the next room with Michael Zisch. Audio recordings of the cases on the administrative docket will be placed on the oil and gas website by the end of the week. If you wish to appear in one of the matters on the administrative docket, please appear in the next room. If there is opposition to the matter, it will be brought back into this hearing room to be heard, and your statements and evidence will be taken. We will begin with case number 29425, application of Enerplus Resources USA Corp. for an order amending the field rules for the Antelope Sanish Bakken or Sanish Pool, McKenzie County, ND, so as to create and establish an overlapping 1280-acre spacing unit comprised of sections 23 and 24, Township 152 North, Range 94 West, authorizing the drilling of one horizontal well on or near the section line between the existing spacing units on said proposed overlapping 1280-acre spacing unit and such other relief as appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Lawrence Bender, P.O. Box 1855, Bismarck, North Dakota. And I'm appearing in case 29425 on behalf of Enerplus Resources USA Corp. We intend to call 3 witnesses in this matter. Mr. Ben Plank will be offering some land testimony. Mr. Topher Lewis will be offering some geologic testimony. And Mr. Julian Hornack will be offering some engineering testimony. These witnesses will be appearing by telephone. And I believe do you all have exhibits? Okay, great.
And Mr. Plank, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Ben, let's have you state your name for the record, please.
My name is Benjamin Plank.
And by whom are you employed?
Enerplus Resources.
In what capacity?
I'm a landman for our North Dakota Fort Berthold asset.
And have you testified before the commission previously?
I have.
And had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes, they were.
No, for the further testimony of this witness, that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Ben, let's turn to the packet of exhibits for this case 29425, and let's skip the cover page and go to the next exhibit in the packet, Exhibit L1. Can you identify that exhibit, please, and briefly describe what's contained upon it?
Yes, of course. Exhibit L1 is a broad area reference map, which shows the general area of the proposed 1,280-acre overlapping spacing unit, which is located in Township 152 North, Range 94 West.
Right, and then let's go to the next exhibit in the packet, which has been previously marked as Exhibit L2. Once again, can you identify and briefly describe what's contained upon that exhibit?
Yes, Exhibit L2 is an operation overview map of this proposed 1,280-acre overlapping unit. It's outlined by the red dashed line, consisting of sections 23 and 24. And this would overlap our operated 640-acre unit to the west and our stand-up 1,280-acre unit to the east.
Okay, and then on this exhibit, you also indicate what the ownership is in the spacing units that you plan to overlap. Can you briefly discuss that for us?
Sure, absolutely. So in that 640-acre unit to the west that we operate, you can see we have 100% working interest depicted in gray, and currently we have the full bear 2334H producing on that unit. And then to the east of this proposed 1,280-acre, that stand-up 1,280-acre, we have a 96.875% working interest, and those wells are producing on sections 13 and 24.
Okay, and then what's the combined interest?
The combined interest would be, for this proposed overlapping spacing unit, our combined interest would be 98.4375%.
Okay, well, let's go to L3. I don't know that you need to spend a lot of time on L3, but at least identify it and discuss what's contained upon it.
Sure. So this is a ownership map. Exhibit L3 is an ownership map of the proposed 1,280-acre overlapping unit, where we're planning on drilling the coral well, depicted in the solid black line. I didn't have much to speak on this. That's why I didn't touch on it in the last slide, but we have a 98.4375% working interest, as you can see, and as I touched on Exhibit L2.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Mr. Lewis, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Topher, by whom are you employed?
Enterplus Resources,
In what capacity?
the geology lead for the Williston Basin.
And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
Yes, I have.
You've had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes, they were.
I'd offer further testimony, this witness that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Topher, let's go to the two geologic exhibits that are included in the packet. Let's start with G1, identify G1, and then briefly discuss what's contained upon it.
Yes. Exhibit G1 is a local area structure map. The structure is based on the Upper Bakken Shale and subsurface TVD. In the diagram, yellow refers to our acreage position. The green dashed lines are the existing producing wells. The red dashed outline is the proposed 1280 overlapping spacing unit, and the dark red line is the proposed lease line referencing the pad that it would be drilled from. This area is up into kind of the northeast portion of the Antelope extension. More structurally complex for the Williston, although not in broad geologic terms, but for the Williston. And this area is actually just on the east side of the crest of the Antelope extension, and actually a little bit of a lower syncline off to the east.
Okay, and perhaps you've explained it, but tell us what the significance is of the dashed black line with the arrows pointing towards one another.
Oh, sure, yeah. That's just for our reference in mapping the area, showing the axis of the syncline coming off from the Antelope extension to the west. The wells to the west that were previously drilled are a little bit more structurally complex area, but as you start to move to the east into this proposed unit and all the wells further, the structure becomes a little bit more simplified. That dashed black line is just the axis of the syncline.
Okay, G2.
G2 is the offset reference log. We're using the Fort Berthold 152-9413B24-1H. It's just to the northeast of the proposed 1280 spacing unit. The curves in the plot, the left is gamma ray and the color shading. To the right of that is resistivity, neutron density, porosity, bulk density, and PE photoelectric on the far right. In the body of the image, highlighted in green, is what we internally use for our main Middle Bakken target. And then below that, in the purple, is internally what we use for the Three Forks target. This particular well we are permitting as a Middle Bakken, right now the qual.
But throughout the two sections that you're overlapping, you have both Middle Bakken and Three Forks targets, is that correct?
Correct. Once we get west of the existing Fool Bear well, or west of the existing Fool Bear well, we'll be alternating Middle Bakken and Three Forks.
And if you were to turn to Exhibit L2, the exhibit the land witness discussed, that sets forth the Middle Bakken and the Three Forks wells that you intend to drill, is that correct?
Correct. We use green to denote Middle Bakken and purple to denote Three Forks. So you can see once we get west of Fool Bear, it goes Middle Bakken, Three Forks, Middle Bakken, all the way to the west section edge.
No further questions of this witness.
Are there any questions from commission staff?
Topher, will this well be drilled directly on the section line?
It will be drilled very close to the section line. We aim for it, but sometimes we put it about 1 foot. I know it's hard to measure that exactly, but we usually put it right on the section line or 1 foot on either side of the line.
And will you be developing the rest of section 23 at the same time?
Yes, yeah, we plan to return to this pad and develop it out and hopefully be done with the Marsupials West pad that we call it.
Thank you.
Topher, this is Bruce Hicks. On that Exhibit L2, there's an existing Marsupials East pad, and it looks like you should be drilling the lease line well from it. Evidently, you don't have room for it. Is that right?
What we decided to do up here for efficiencies is to pick one pad to continue development of the unit. If we were to use both pads, we'd be splitting wells. We'd probably have to do some additional surface work on the Marsupials East pad. We decided to pick what we determined was the best pad for all future development, and that happened to be the Marsupials West pad. We already have 2 existing wells on the Marsupials East. We have no wells on the Marsupials West. So if we were to try and split it up, or if we were to try to just develop from the East pad, we'd have to do some additional work, and we would not be able to fit all the wells. So we decided to just go with the new pad, get everything done, and be more efficient than trying to split between both pads.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Moving on, Mr. Hornack, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Julian, can you tell us by whom you were employed
Interplus Resources
and in what capacity?
as a reservoir engineer.
And you've testified before the commission previously?
I have.
And you had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
They did, yep.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Julian, let's go to the next exhibit in the packet. It's been previously marked as E1. Can you tell us what E1 is?
Yeah, Exhibit E1 is a generic wellbore diagram to show what our expected plan is for this Middle Bakken well.
Okay, and then let's go to RE1.
Exhibit RE1 is it represents the Bakken reservoir parameters in this area, and with a thickness of 55 feet and a porosity of 6.7% and a water saturation of 28%, and using information volume factor of 1.3, we're expecting a total estimated oil recovery of 20 million barrels in place, of which we can recover 5 million barrels. And each well is expected to produce about 400 MBO per well.
All right, and then RE2.
And RE2 represents the document economic summary for this particular well, and running that at an oil price of $60 held flat and a gas price of $3.60. We're expecting an initial capital cost of $6 million, and at 400 MBO, we're expecting a rate of return of 49.8% with a payout of 1.6 years.
And then finally, I don't know if it has an exhibit number on it, but perhaps we can just call it GC1. Is that a gas capture affidavit that the commission typically requires in these sorts of hearings?
That is correct.
Julian, in your opinion, will the requested relief prevent waste, protect correlative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
I have no further questions. Offer the exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Anything further in this matter, Mr. Bender?
Nothing further, Mr. Examiner.
All right, that will conclude the hearing in case number 29425. Moving on, case number 29426. Application of Hunt Oil Co. for an order amending the field rules for the Wolf Bay Bakken Pool, Dunn County, ND, so as to create and establish an overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit comprised of sections 1, 2, 11, and 12, Township 146 North, Range 93 West, authorizing the drilling of a horizontal well on or near the section line between existing spacing units of said proposed overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit and such other relief. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Lawrence Bender, P.O. Box 1855, Bismarck, North Dakota. Appearing in this matter, case 29426 on behalf of Hunt Oil Company. We intend to call 3 witnesses in this matter. Mr. Matt Bodley, B-O-D-L-E-Y, will be offering some land testimony. Ms. Lauren Sakaya, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. If I'm wrong, she'll correct us here in a few moments. S-A-K-A-I will be offering some geologic testimony. And then Ms. Sophia Feliciano will be providing some engineering witnesses, some engineering testimony. All 3 witnesses should be on the phone now, and we're ready to call our first witness, Mr. Bodley.
All right, Mr. Bodley, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Matt, would you state your full name for the record, please?
Matt Bodley,
And Matt, by whom are you employed?
Hunt Oil Company,
And in what capacity?
land manager.
And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
Yes.
You had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes.
For the further testimony of this witness, that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Matt, let's turn to the packet of exhibits. I've distributed a packet to the commission staff, and let's go to Exhibit 1, identify that exhibit, and then just very briefly discuss what's contained upon it.
Exhibit 1 is a regional locator map showing Wolf Bay Field in Dunn County.
Okay, and Exhibit 2.
Exhibit 2 shows the existing spacing units of 2 and 11, 12 and 1 in blue, and in a red dashed outline the proposed overlapping 2560.
Okay, and then can you briefly indicate what the percentage of ownership is by of Hunt in these 1280s and the proposed 2560?
Yes, sir. So in the 11-2 unit, Hunt's existing working interest is 71.88%, and the 12-1 unit, Hunt's working interest is 100%. If we overlap to a 2560, Hunt's working interest would be 85.94%.
No further questions of the land witness.
Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Ms. Sakai,
Yes,
is that correct? Did I pronounce it?
yes, it's Sakai.
All right. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Lauren, state your full name for the record, please.
Lauren Sakai.
And Lauren, by whom are you employed?
Hunt.
And in what capacity?
Geologist.
And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
Yes.
Had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Okay, Lauren, let's go to the next exhibit in the packet, previously marked Exhibit 3. Briefly discuss, well, first identify Exhibit 3 and then briefly discuss what's contained upon it.
Exhibit 3 is a map of the top of the Bakken Formation structure using 100-foot subsea contour intervals. It shows the Wolf Bay Field and the proposed 2560 acre DSU highlighted in red.
Okay, and then let's go to Exhibit 4.
Exhibit 4 is a type log for Wolf Bay Field. On the left, you see the gamma ray curve. In the middle is the neutron porosity and density porosity curves. And on the right is the resistivity curve. In gray, highlighted is the upper Bakken Shale, the middle Bakken Reservoir, and the lower Bakken Shale. And then the top and base of the Bakken Pool are indicated.
And is it correct that the target for this increased density section line well is the Middle Bakken?
Yes, that's correct.
No further questions.
Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Ms. Feliciano, can you hear me?
Yes.
You solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Sophia, can you state your full name for the record, please?
Sophia Feliciano,
And by whom are you employed?
Hunt Oil Company.
And in that capacity, or excuse me, in what capacity are you employed by Hunt?
Senior Staff Reservoir Engineer.
And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
Yes, I have.
Had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Sophia, let's go to Exhibit 5. Can you identify Exhibit 5 and then briefly discuss what's contained upon it?
Yeah, Exhibit 5 shows the existing Hunt Oil operated wells within the existing 1280 units. Also, dotted in red, you can see the proposed 2560 units, and the light blue line is the proposed 10,000 feet lease line well.
Okay, and Exhibit 6.
Exhibit 6 shows the overall schematic for a typical middle Bakken well of 10,000 laterals, cemented and completed with 70 flux per frac stages.
Okay, and Exhibit 7.
Exhibit 7 shows the estimated reservoir properties, reserves, and economics for a typical middle Bakken well in this area. With an estimated original oil in place of 22.8 million barrels for the proposed unit, this yields into approximately a 3.3% recovery factor for the estimated EUR. The economics for this well, with an investment of $7.4 million, is 100% rate of return at current marketing prices.
Okay. And then Exhibit 8, is that a gas capture affidavit that is typically required by the commission in these sorts of hearings?
Yes, it is.
And in your opinion, will the requested relief prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
No further questions. Offer the exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Sophia, is this well going to be drilled directly on the section line?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sophia, this is Bruce Hicks. When do you plan to drill the well?
It's in the schedule for the first quarter of 2023.
Okay, and will you be utilizing an existing pad?
No, we will have build a pad for that location.
Okay, and what's the purpose of building a new pad rather than trying to utilize one that's out there?
Essentially, the topography in that area is a little, challenging. So we'll have to just drill the well, build the pad where topography allows it.
Okay, but if it's rough topography, why wouldn't you try to use an existing one? You're drilling a horizontal well, so you could,
Mr. Hicks, this is Matt Bosley. We have done studies on using existing pads. Our current layout for the wells on the existing pads are challenged as is. We have recently done aerial surveys, as-built surveys, and we believe that the best path forward, and we're still exploring the option of doing it, but it is challenged. So we think the best possibility of drilling this lease line well is going to have to be from a new location because of the topography.
okay. And then lastly, Sophia, on your Exhibit 7, you're indicating that your pricing was based on the Hunt marketing strip. What is the current or the initial prices of oil and gas that you used in your analysis?
Yeah, it starts like $100 and then goes down to $70 barrel. That's kind of the strip. So the initial is 105.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none, anything further, Mr. Bender?
Nothing further.
That will conclude the hearing in case number 29426. Case number 29427. Application of Grayson Mill Operating LLC for an order amending the field rules for the Todd Bakken Pool, Williams County, ND, so as to create and establish an overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit comprised of sections 5, 6, 7, and 8, Township 154 North, Range 101 West, authorizing the drilling of a horizontal well on or near the section line between existing spacing units of said proposed overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit and such other relief. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Lawrence Bender, P.O. Box 1855, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in case 29427 on behalf of Grayson Mill Operating LLC. We intend to call 3 witnesses in this matter. Ms. Amy Becker will be offering some land testimony. Mr. Mark Wasilowski will be offering some geologic testimony. Help you out with the spelling, Washuleski. And then finally, Mr. Evan Luke will be providing some engineering testimony. All 3 witnesses will be joining us by telephone.
All right. Ms. Becker, can you hear me?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Amy, state your name for the record, please.
Amy Becker,
And Amy, by whom are you employed?
Grayson Mill Energy.
In what capacity?
I'm a senior landman.
And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
I have.
And you have your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Thank you. Amy, let's go to the first exhibit in the packet, which I've distributed to the commission staff. It's been previously marked as L1. Can you tell me what L1 is?
Yes, this is depicting the proposed overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit, which will comprise of sections 5, 6, 7, and 8, located in Township 154 North, Range 101 West.
All right, then let's go to L2. Same thing there. Could you please identify and briefly discuss what's contained on that exhibit?
Yes, this is showing the existing 2 1280-acre spacing units. On the left, section 6 and 7, 154 North, 101 West, and then on the right you have the 1280 consisting of sections 5 and 8, 154 North, 101 West.
Okay, and then let's go to L3. Once again, identify and indicate what's contained upon it.
Yes, this is an existing 1280-acre spacing unit, our Dave Arnson, sections 5 and 8, 154 North, 101 West, and we show
you that Grayson Mill has a working interest of approximately 86%.
Okay, and Exhibit L4.
And L4 is the existing 1280 acre spacing unit, our field trust, consisting of sections 6 and 7 in Township 154 North, Range 101 West, in which Grayson Mill has a working interest of 84%.
And L5.
And L5 again is showing the proposed overlapping 1260 acre spacing unit, comprising of sections 5, 6, 7, and 8, 154 North, 101 West. And in this overlapping spacing unit, Grayson Mill Williston will have approximately 85% working interest.
No further questions from the land witness.
Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Mr. Washaleski, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Mark, state your full name for the record, please.
It's Mark Washaleski,
And Mark, by whom are you employed?
Grayson Mill Energy.
In what capacity?
I'm an operations geologist.
In that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
Yes, I have.
Had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Mark, let's go to the next exhibit in the packet. It's been previously been marked as G1. Can you tell me what G1 is?
Yes, G1 is a Upper Bakken Shale structure map over these units. These sections are outlined in red, and the type well is the Glen 130, just to the north of these, and it's circled in it with a yellow dot.
Okay, and then let's go to G2.
G2 is just a gamma ray log and resistivity log over the Middle Bakken section here, and it shows the thicknesses of the Middle Bakken. Middle Bakken is about 36 feet thick here.
Okay, and the target is the Middle Bakken, is that correct?
That's correct.
No further questions of the geologic witness.
Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Mr. Luke, are you on the line?
Yes, sir, I am.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Evan, state your name for the record, please.
Evan Luke,
And Evan, by whom are you employed?
Grayson Mill Energy,
In what capacity?
as a senior reservoir engineer.
And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
Yes, sir, I have.
And you've had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes, sir.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Evan, let's go to E1, identify E1, and then very briefly discuss what's contained upon that exhibit.
So E1 is showing the proposed directional well plot in orange is the 2560 overlap spacing that we're talking about with sections 5, 6, 7, and 8. The Middle Bakken well shown there in a dashed blue line is going to be drilled 200 feet from the lease line, and it's showing it as a 10,000-foot lateral Middle Bakken well.
And E2.
So each is a wellbore schematic. Really, we just highlight a few things here. This is a 3-string casing design with surface casing set at 2,200 feet, intermediate casing set at 11,000 feet, and the total measured depth where the cemented liner TD will be 21,000 feet. The other piece to highlight is this is planned to be 45-stage plug-and-perf design.
Okay, and E3.
So E3 is going through the reservoir characteristics in this area. So like we stated, this will be a producing Middle Bakken target here with the 2560 spacing. Pressure in this area, TBD, around 10,600 feet with a bottom hole pressure of 0.69 psi per foot. Porosity is 7.5%. Water saturation here is 32%, and the GOR for the life of the well is 1,700 standard cubic feet per barrel.
And Exhibit E4.
E4 is detailing the economics. I'll start at the top table. So as stated before, middle Bakken well here, the initial rate that we're planned on flowing is 1,200 barrels of oil per day with the GOR at 1,700 as previously stated. When you factor all that in, the EUR for the oil is 496,000 barrels, but when we look at it from a BOE perspective, the EUR is 729,000 barrels of oil equivalent. I'll move to the economics table. So this is just for the single well. We run our price decks for these at $65 flat and $3 flat gas price. CapEx is assumed at $8.3 million. With running those economics, that yields us a $5.2 million NPV10, rate of return of 56%, and discounted payback of 1.7 years.
And GM1 is a gas capture affidavit that's typically required by the commission in these sorts of hearings. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
In your opinion, will the requested relief prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes, sir.
No further questions off of the exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Evan, you had mentioned that this well is going to be drilled 200 feet from the lease line. Will that be to the east or to the west?
Plan for now is to the east side of the section line.
And will you be developing the rest of Section 5 at the same time?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Evan, this is Bruce Hicks. When you were talking about your well economics on the gas-oil ratio, you indicated the lifetime GOR of 1,700. How do you plan to produce the well in artificial lift?
So the plan here will be ESP. And then once we get to below ESP rate, it'll convert to rod lift.
Okay, and producing with an ESP, have you exhibited some high gas-oil ratios during that phase?
So what we're seeing is the gas oil ratios. So we'll go to natural flow originally, and our GORs are lower. But as we're pulling the wells down with the ESP and drawing down, we are seeing the gas oil ratios start to come up faster towards that life. But initially, once the ESP is first installed natural flow, the GOR is lower, but it's increasing over time. And we're seeing that as we're drawing these ESPs down a little harder, we're seeing our gas oil ratios increasing faster.
And I assume you're passing that on to your midstream so they understand how much gas they could expect in this area?
Yes, sir. That's correct. Yeah, as we're forecasting our wells, we're showing increasing GO over time and adjusting that accordingly to our rates.
In Exhibit E1, is it showing that you have a proposed surface location in the northwest of 17?
Yes, sir, that's correct. That's where the pad will be from. And the plan is, the 2560 will have one well, but then there'll be 5 other wells that we're developing in conjunction with this.
Okay, and I assume that it's just going to be the west side of 5 and 8 and 17 and 20 that you develop off of this pad?
That's correct, yes, sir, yeah. So when the question about developing the issue, we're in sections 5 and 8, there's another phase of development on the east side of sections 5 and 8, but this will be to finish the west side of this because we can't step out that far with the rig.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Anything further, Mr. Bender?
Nothing further.
All right. That will conclude the hearing in case number 29427. Moving on. Case number 29428. Application of Mercury Resources LLC for an order amending the field rules for the Buford Madison Pool, Williams County, ND, to create and establish an overlapping 1280-acre spacing unit comprised of sections 11 and 14, Township 152 North, Range 104 West, authorizing the drilling of a horizontal well on said proposed overlapping 1280-acre spacing unit, such other and further relief as appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
name and press the pound or hash key. When you hear the tone, you will be the second person to join the meeting. Joining the meeting.
Mr. Examiner, Lawrence Bender, P.O. Box 1855, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this matter, case 29428, on behalf of Mercury Resources, LLC. We intend on calling two witnesses in this matter, Mr. Examiner. Mr. Conrad Woodland, who is a geological engineer, is going to be offering some geologic and a few comments with respect to engineering matters. He's also going to provide some factual testimony with respect to land. And then Mr. Kyle Hudson will also be offering some engineering testimony. These two witnesses will be appearing by telephone, and I apologize, I haven't handed out the exhibits, which I will do right now.
All right. I will swear in your first witness while you do that. Mr. Woodland, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Conrad, would you state your name for the record, please?
Conrad Woodland,
And Conrad, by whom are you employed?
Mercury Resources,
In what capacity?
geologist, reservoir engineering.
Okay. And you've testified before the commission previously, have you not?
Yes, I have.
And you've had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
That's correct.
Offer further testimony of this witness, that of an expert in the area of geology and engineering.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Conrad, let's go to the packet of exhibits for case 29428, and let's turn first to exhibit L1. And you haven't been qualified as an expert land witness, but perhaps you can provide us with just some factual information with respect to L1. Tell us what L1 is.
I respect that L1 is simply a locator map showing the location of the field and the associated unit that we're presenting today.
Okay, and L2?
L2 is more detailed of the unit that we're asking for the spacing on. This is in the same township range of 152, 104, sections 11 and 14.
Okay.
Also shown on the display is existing Madison horizontals that we operate and proposed new horizontals that we anticipate to drill.
And your legend indicates which are the existing Madison, what your proposed new Madison wells will be, but it also has some green lines on here. Can you tell us what those green lines are with respect to well designation?
Yeah, the green lines, I apologize, I have the next legend on G1 that shows that, but that would be current Bakken targeted lateral operated by Grayson Mill.
Okay, and then L3?
L3 is the breakdown of the working interest ownership across the 1280.
Okay, and what is Mercury's interest?
Mercury's interest is 25.56%.
Has Mercury had any discussions with the other working interest owners to determine who should be the operator of this well if the application is granted by the commission?
We have the partnership. We have a joint operating agreement with Murata and Resource Strategies. They have accepted us as operator, and then the other working interest owners, not part of that JOA, I have not had discussions with.
Okay. Let's go on now to the geologic exhibits. Can you tell us what G1 is?
G1 is the structure map on the targeted producing interval of the Madison Ratcliffe. Also shown in here again is the proposed new unit outline, existing Madison wells, the proposed new drill Madison wells, and then the Bakken, existing Bakken Three Forks.
Anything of importance to note to the commission about the geology in this area? Anything unusual or unique?
The only, as far as the Madison specifically goes, the unique character is the porosity, preserved porosity that exists across the field and the structure. So it's a component of structure and porosity that is unique to the field.
All right, let's go to Exhibit G2.
Exhibit G2 is a type log. This is specifically the Jean-Baptiste 1-11, located in Section 11. Shown here is the significant markers at the top of the rack lip, and then the flat lake interval depicting actually the targeted horizontal for the new well.
No further questions at this time, Mr. Examiner. We will be recalling Mr. Woodland after the engineering witness presents some engineering testimony.
Okay. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Conrad, looking at your Exhibit G2, are the existing 1 mile laterals in the same target? Are they both rack lip horizontals?
They are.
Thank you.
Any further questions from staff?
And if I can add a note to that, the one part that when I say existing Madison laterals, the Jean-Baptiste currently is TNA'd, and Kyle, as the engineering, will expand on that. But that current Jean-Baptiste is not producing, and it has not been producing since 2014.
Thank you. Any further questions from staff? Seeing none. Mr. Hudson, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Kyle, state your name for the record.
Kyle Hudson,
And Kyle, by whom are you employed?
Mercury Resources,
What capacity?
drilling and completion production engineer.
And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
I have, yes.
Have you had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
For the further testimony, this witness that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Kyle, let's go to the next exhibit, E1. Tell us what E1 is.
So E1 is a wellbore diagram, and it shows on the far left-hand side, the straight wellbore is the existing Dean Baptiste wellbore down to roughly kickoff point. And that wellbore, there's a couple of fishes in the hole, one around the curve, and there's what looks to be collapsed casing at 8361, which is right at the top of the Charles Salt. And we have temporarily abandoned the well in October of 2019, and that cast iron bridge plug was shown at 8313, capped with cement. So that's kind of the existing condition of the Dean Baptiste 111H. And our proposed work on that well, as required by the NDIC, and we have pressure on the back side of this well. The work that is proposed to further temporarily abandon the well is to set a cement plug over the Minnetonka and chute squeeze hole and squeeze off above the Dakota to try to eliminate the pressure on the backside. So that's what the diagram shows on the left. Then subsequent to that, we would come in and pull the 7-inch casing, cut and pull, set a plug over the top of the 7-inch plug, casing stub, sidetrack and re-drill the well as shown on the diagram, and run a 7-inch casing, cement to above the Dakota, and then drill our lateral, and then the lateral is just an open hole completion as described by Conrad's previous diagrams.
Okay, let's go to E2.
E2 is just the front page of the proposed back procedure, which I've described what we're going to do there. So,
Okay. No further questions of this witness. We will be recalling Mr. Whitlet.
Are there any questions from commission staff?
Kyle, are you intending to continue producing the Madison lateral in section 14?
yes, we do.
Are there plans for any additional wells on section 11 on a 640 basis, or just this well?
I believe just as well, Conrad
Just
might
to
be.
note on that well in section 14, which is the Charbonneau 1-14, which we operate, we've gone into that lateral and discovered that the lateral has collapsed hole roughly a third of the way in the lateral. So looking at the diagram of that lateral in the 640, the toe to at minimum halfway point is collapsed. So the contribution of that portion of the lateral is non-existent currently.
And then Conrad or Kyle, do you plan on re-entering that well in section 14? Or are you just going to produce it as is?
We're under partner approval, and we've discussed that. I would say right now the well's performance is preventing. Right now we'll just keep the well online and not shut the well in to attempt to drill out that collapsed hole. So we'll just keep producing as is.
And for this new 1280 lateral, it's going to be open hole completion? Or just open hole? Is there going to be any stimulation?
No, it's just an open hole, no stimulation.
Thank you.
Kyle, when do you guys plan to go out and do the work that was required by the NDIC?
We are scheduled probably mid-July to do that work.
Will you re-drill right away?
We have a rig. Excuse me?
Will you re-drill right away then, while you have the rig there?
No, we won't pull the 7-inch casing and do the re-drill until there's about a 6-month lead time to get 7-inch casing right now, and we wouldn't start that work until we procured the casing.
Would you attempt to re-drill and possibly drill this new lateral at the same time?
Yeah. I mean, once we pulled the casing and sidetracked, we would drill the vertical, curve, and lateral all at the same time.
Thanks.
Cal, this is Bruce Hicks. On the existing well in 14, you have integrity issues in that well bore. You're also planning open hole in this well. How are you going to maintain integrity in your open hole section here?
Good question. I think if I were to look at it by the numbers, the Charbonneau is a bit of a one-off. We have 12 laterals in this field. I've worked with another company in Port Buford, which we had 36 of these same type of laterals. And the Charbonneau is the first one I've come across that has actually had collapsed hole. So I would say, from just by the numbers, I would continue with the open hole. It seems to be a one-off. They had some sidetrack. The original operator sidetracked that wellbore, and there may be some component of the sidetrack that has influenced or a fault that has influenced that issue with the Charbonneau.
Bruce, this is Kyle. We've been in two other well bores also to clean out on the Fort Buford well and the Ordway, and we hadn't run into those same issues, hull sloughing issues that we had in Ordway, or Charbonneau. I'm sorry.
Okay. Currently, section 11 is up in Buford and 14 is down in Briar Creek. Both of those sections on 640-acre spacing allow 3 horizontal wells on them. It sounds to me like you're not planning on drilling 3, that you just need 1 horizontal per 640. Is that correct?
The plan is to, I've done some reservoir modeling with the group here in Denver on water flows, et cetera. So the birds would negate that future water flood. So the single long lateral between existing producers leaves us options to further recover oil through a water flood. That would be the basis of why we're sticking to single but extended lateral. The economics, if I were to just run the existing 640, really, it's almost a break even at today's prices, just because drilling costs are so high. So that extended feed, again, since it's not stimulated, every foot we get is contributing to the production or the EUR of the well.
Okay, so what you're saying then is that you have no issue with downspacing the 640s to just 1 horizontal per 640, since that's your intent here in 11 and 14.
I wouldn't downspace it to 1, because the Charbonneau 640, if approved in this unit spacing, that would be 2. And following trend, the unit, the laydown unit below this, that you see that extended lateral, that section, section 30, I think, that would have 2 once we drill that well. So we'll have in this field at most 2 laterals in a 640.
Okay, well, actually, your reentry will not be in the 640 anymore, since you're requesting a 1280 and to drill across that, so.
Okay, fair.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay, correct.
Any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none, I think we had a few more questions from Mr. Woodland.
Yeah, Conrad, let's turn to Exhibit E3. Can you identify that exhibit and briefly discuss what's contained upon it?
Yes, E3 contains the economic, so the reserve run on the Jean-Baptiste redrill. I've used the existing Jean-Baptiste as a type section and with the Charbonneau and the other wells in the field. What you see there in the top chart is the anticipated initial rate, the final rate, exponential decline that I used, the initial B factor of 1.2, the current, what we anticipate for GOR, and then the final EUR of oil and gas. Below that are the economic outputs and inputs used. So using, it says 95, but obviously I have a forward-looking deck that's from current pricing out to life of well. Drilling costs, I have at $3 million. Our current average operating costs in the field, and then I just grossed up to 100% working interest, and then net revenue interest shown at 170, and then 78 net NRI. Last 3 are the net present value, discounted 10% of 1.56 million. That gives us a 27% rate of return and a payout at 3.6 years. Below that are just the rock properties taken from an average between the Charbonneau and the Jean Baptiste. So the initial SW seen was roughly 30%. Target thickness of the lateral is averaging at 20 feet. The average porosity PA of that 20 is 10%. The pH of that is 1.5 feet. Oil in place, it has basically I used a B sub O of 1.5, and then the parameters that you see here with a 640 acre, so that oil in place is on 640s, which is 3.2 million barrels. Recovery factor of 12%. Historically, vertical wells in the Madison have a recovery factor of 6 to 7%. Lateral, not quite double that, so I used 12. And so the recovery of 692,000 barrels per 640. And then other rock properties, bottom hole temperature, oil, and then oil properties, oil gravity of 37 and a GOR of 280. And at the bottom, I do note the current cum oil to date on both the Charbonneau and the Jean Baptiste. So clearly, with the fairly conservative oil in place and recovery factors that are noted, the in-place oil supports the extended lateral economics at these prices and drilling costs.
In your opinion, will the requested relief prevent waste, protect relative rights, prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
No further questions. Offer the exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Are there any further questions from commission staff?
Conrad Bruce again here. You indicated that this original oil in place was per 640. Did you use 640 instead of 1280 because of the existing production already produced from the two units?
Yes, and my spreadsheet was built on 640s from all the other existing wells, so I stuck with the 640, correct?
Okay. How far out from the wellbore do you believe that you can drain?
Good question. And my experience with that, again, I mentioned it. We did a study with a group here in Denver. iReservoir did a detailed look at Buford and this field. The original lateral in that study showed to be, without the study in front of me, I want to say it was a couple hundred feet outboard of that original lateral was the depletion halo, if you want to call it. So in that study, it supported up to 2 additional laterals per 640, not taking in account for a water flood. But and then on top of that, and Kyle can note on this as well, we did re-enter one of those laterals, the Gonzales well at Fort Buford, and got out a couple hundred feet and started to see, I guess, not depleted reservoir. So initially near the wellbore we're depleted, but a couple hundred feet outboard of that lateral, we started to see virgin rock, if you want to call it. I can, again, I don't have that study in front of me, but it's a fairly tight window that, and part of it, the hyperbolic curve is you're draining the initial fractures. These are highly fractured, as you all know, and then you go to the matrix production. If I were to use another example, it'd be the same Racklet zone that's being produced up in Canada, just across the border. That was operated by Crescent Point, and they were putting up to 9 stand-up in a 640 Ratcliffs. Now, different mechanism there. They have a lot of water, and then they quickly converted every other well into an injector. But the draining radius in these Madison rocks is pretty small, to summarize.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none, anything further in this matter, Mr. Bennett?
Nothing further.
All right, that will conclude the hearing in case number 29428. The time is 10:06 a.m. Why don't we take a 5-minute break before we go to the next case? And we are back on the record in case number 29429, application of Continental Resources, Inc. for an order amending the field rules for the Hamlet, Bach, and Pool Divide County ND so as to create and establish two overlapping 1920-acre spacing units comprised of sections 4, 9, and 16, and sections 21, 28, and 33, Township 160 North, Range 96 West, authorizing the drilling of a total not to exceed 3 wells on each proposed overlapping 1920-acre spacing unit and/or such further relief. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Lawrence Bender, P.O. Box 1855, Bismarck, appearing in this matter, case 29429 on behalf of Continental Resources, Inc. Three witnesses to call in this matter. Matt McMurray, Mr. Matt McMurray will be offering some land testimony. Mr. Tyler Gruenbacher, Gruenbacher, will be offering some geologic testimony. And then Mr. Chase Haddocken will be offering some engineering testimony. These witnesses will be appearing by telephone, and they are on the phone.
All right,
As we speak.
Mr. McMurray, can you hear me?
I can.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Matt, state your name for the record.
Matthew McMurray,
And Matt, by whom are you employed?
Continental Resources, Inc.,
In what capacity?
the senior landman.
In that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
I have.
Had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
They have.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Matt, let's go to L1, identify, and then briefly discuss what's contained on that exhibit.
Yes, Lawrence. L1 is a general locator map with the existing field outlines in blue and the two proposed 1,920-acre spacing units shaded in yellow. One is outlined in red, the other in blue.
And exhibit L2.
L2 is a land plat for the proposed 1,920-acre spacing unit comprised of sections 4, 9, and 16, along with a working interest summary for those three sections.
And L3.
L3 is a land plat for the other proposed 1,920-acre spacing unit comprised of sections 21, 28, and 33, 160 North, 96 West, along with a working interest summary for those three sections.
No further questions.
Any questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Mr. Gruenbacher, are you on the line?
I am.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Tyler, state your full name for the record, please.
Tyler Gruenbacher,
And Tyler, by whom are you employed?
Continental Resources, Inc.,
In what capacity?
as an operations geologist.
And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
No.
What I'd like you to do, Tyler, is briefly highlight for the examiner and the commission staff your educational background and work experience.
Sure. I received my bachelor's of science degree in geology from Oklahoma State University in 2014. After completion of my undergraduate, I attended the University of Arkansas to pursue a master's of science in geology. I had fulfilled all degree requirements with the exception of a thesis when I took a job offer from Gulfport Energy in 2017. At Gulfport Energy, I worked as an operations geologist responsible for the planning and drilling of wells in both the southern Anadarko Basin as well as the Utica Play in southeast Ohio. I worked for Gulfport for just shy of 5 years before accepting my current position at Continental Resources, which I accepted in November of 2021. My primary responsibilities at Continental include the planning of wells, drilling, and post-well analysis of 2 rig lines, as well as prospect evaluation across the Williston Basin.
In preparation for today's hearing, have you made a thorough study and review of all the relevant geologic matters concerning the request?
Yes.
And have you prepared or had prepared under your control and supervision exhibits that you intend to sponsor?
Yes.
For the further testimony of this witness out of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Tyler, let's go to the next exhibit in the packet. It's been previously marked as G1. Can you identify G1 and then briefly discuss what's contained on that exhibit?
Yeah, Exhibit G1 is a general locator map showing our proposed spacing units, which are highlighted in yellow and outlined in red and blue. 50-foot contours on the upper Bakken surface are also displayed. And the type log for the area, the Fortier CG1, is indicated by a red star. This type log is representative of the rock character of the two 19-20 acre spacing units shown on this exhibit.
And G2.
Exhibit G2 is the Fortier CG1 type log denoted by a red star on Exhibit G1. It displays the Hamlet Bakken Pool from 50 feet above the Upper Bakken Shale through the Bakken and Three Forks formations and into the Bird Bear Formation. The reservoir parameters are located below in a text box, and I'd like to point out that the zone top and zone base depths that are posted within the parameters on this exhibit are incorrect. They should read 8,982 feet and 9,081.5 feet, respectively. These corrected depths also apply to the zone top and zone base values under reservoir parameters in Exhibit E3. All other associated interval and petrophysical values posted below the type log are correct.
And the proposed wells on the 1920s, and the engineering witness will get into this in a little bit more detail. They're Middle Bakken targets, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. No further questions.
Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Mr. Haddikin, can you hear me?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Chase, state your name for the record, please.
Chase Haddikin,
And Chase, by whom are you employed?
Continental Resources,
What capacity?
reservoir engineer.
You've testified before the commission previously, is that correct?
Yes,
And you've had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert, is that correct?
I have.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Chase, let's go to E1, identify and briefly discuss.
Exhibit E1 is a directional plot for the two proposed 19-20 acre spacing units. The first 19-20 spacing unit is comprised of sections 4, 9, and 16 of 160 North, 96 West, with 3 proposed Middle Bakken wells. The second 19-20 spacing unit is comprised of section 21, 28, and 33 of 160 North, 96 West, also with 3 proposed Middle Bakken wells. The main point of this exhibit is to outline the existing development in those sections with the solid green lines and the solid pink lines representing existing Middle Bakken and Three Forks wells, respectively, and the dashed green lines indicating the proposed Middle Bakken wells.
Okay, E2.
Exhibit E2 is a schematic for a typical 3-mile Middle Bakken well. We're showing a TD of 26,000 feet MD. We're showing a TD of 26,000 feet with an MD, with a casing. We are showing a MD of 26,000 feet with a 7-inch casing point at 11,000 feet MD, which puts our lateral length at 15,000 feet. The lateral will be cemented and completed with 40 plug and perf stages paired with hydraulic fracturing operations.
All right, and then the next exhibit, Exhibit E3.
Exhibit E3 outlines the reserves and economics for an individual 3-mile Middle Bakken well. Starting with the reserve section, we're expecting an oil IP of 650 barrels of oil per day, an oil EUR of 530 MBO, a gas EUR of 1,240 MMCF, a BOE EUR of 737 MBOE, and an EUR GOR of 2340 standard cubic feet per barrel. Moving on to the economic section, with a total estimated gross drilling completion cost of $8.961 million, 60-3 oil and gas price deck, and there are reserves mentioned above. We are expecting a total PV10 of $4.016 million per well, a rate of return of 29% per well, and an undiscounted payout of 2.7 years. Also shown are the reservoir parameters broken out for the Middle Bakken as Tyler previously spoke to in Exhibit G2.
And then Exhibit GM1, is that a gas capture affidavit that the commission typically requires in these sorts of hearings?
Yes.
In your opinion, will the requested relief prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Well,
No further questions, offer the exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Chase, I'm looking at your Exhibit E1. Is this going to be full development for the area, or is there potential for a Three Forks Bench 1 in the future?
our current plans are the 3 proposed Middle Bakken wells that we're showing in Exhibit E1.
Are you planning on only drilling Middle Bakken in this area in the future?
That is the current plan.
And is this, what's your ideal interwell spacing in the area? Just looking at offsetting spacing units, there was higher density than you're going to have here.
Yeah, so here we're looking at 3 additional Middle Bakken wells. So that would be essentially be 4 total wells per unit.
Okay, thank you.
Chase, this is Bruce Hicks. The Three Forks reserves, do you believe you're going to be able to produce any of those with your Middle Bakken completion development?
Yes, that's the thought process.
And you're only showing approximately 40 stages, which seems kind of low for a 3-mile lateral. Is that typical in this area of how you would develop it?
Yes, that is a new completion design that we are testing. But that is what we'll be doing on these wells.
Okay, in what time frame are you going to drill the wells?
For first quarter, probably first half of next year.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Anything further on this matter, Mr. Bender? Nothing further. That will conclude the hearing in case number 29429. Moving on. Case number 29370. Application of Continental Resources, Inc. for an order amending the field rules for the St. Demetrius and/or Bull Snake Bakken Pool, Billings County, ND, so as to create and establish the following: an overlapping 1920-acre spacing unit comprised of Section 32, Township 142 North, Range 99 West, and Sections 5 and 8, Township 141 North, Range 99 West, authorizing the drilling of a total not to exceed 4 wells in said proposed overlapping 1920-acre spacing unit, and 4 overlapping 3840-acre spacing units comprised of Sections 33 and 34, Township 142 North, Range 99 West, and Sections 3, 4, 9, and 10, Township 141 North, Range 99 West, Sections 34 and 35, Township 142 North, Range 99 West, and Sections 2, 3, 10, and 11, Township 141 North, Range 99 West, Sections 35 and 36, Township 142 North, Range 99 West, and Sections 1, 2, 11, and 12, Township 141 North, Range 99 West, Section 31, Township 142 North, Range 98 West, Section 36, 142 North, Range 99 West, Sections 1 and 12, Township 141 North, Range 99 West, and Sections 6 and 7, Township 141 North, Range 98 West, authorizing the drilling of a well, horizontal well on or near the section line between existing spacing units on each proposed overlapping 3840-acre spacing unit and/or such further relief. This case is continued to July. Case number 29310, application of Crescent Point Energy U.S. Corp. for an order amending the field rules for the Blue Ridge and/or Winter Bakken pools, Williams County, ND, so as to create and establish 4 overlapping 1920-acre spacing units comprised of Sections 29 and 32, Township 159 North, Range 100 West, and Sections 5, Township 158 North, Range 100 West, Sections 30 and 31, Township 159 North, Range 100 West, and Section 6, Township 158 North, Range 100 West, Sections 7, 18, and 19, Township 158 North, Range 100 West, and Sections 8, 17, and 20, Township 158 North, Range 100 West, authorizing the drilling of a total not to exceed 3 wells on each proposed overlapping 1920-acre spacing unit and/or such further relief. This case is dismissed. Moving on, case number 29313, application of WPX Energy Williston LLC for an order amending the field rules for the Heart Butte and/or Deepwater Creek Bay, Bakken Pool, Dunn, and McLean counties, ND, so as to create and establish the following. An overlapping 1280-acre spacing units comprised of sections 9 and 16, Township 149 North, Range 91 West, authorizing the drilling of a horizontal well on or near the section line between the existing spacing unit on said proposed overlapping 1280-acre spacing unit and 2 overlapping 3840-acre spacing units comprised of sections 9, 10, 15, 16, 21, and 22, Township 149 North, Range 92 West, and sections 2, 3, 4, 9, 10, and 11, Township 149 North, Range 91 West, authorizing the drilling of a horizontal well on or near the section line between existing spacing units on each proposed overlapping 3840-acre spacing unit and or such other and further relief as appropriate. This case is continued to July. Moving on, case number 29314, application of WPX Energy Williston LLC for an order extending the field boundaries and amending the field rules for the Hart Butte and or Twin Buttes Bakken Pool so as to create and establish a 1920-acre spacing unit comprised of sections 1 and 2, Township 147 North, Range 92 West, and section 6, Township 147 North, Range 91 West, Dunn County, ND, authorizing the drilling of a total not to exceed 8 wells and said space unit and such additional and further and additional relief as commission deems appropriate. This case is continued to July. Case number 29364. Application of WPX Energy Williston LLC for an order amending the field rules for the Hart Butte and or Deep Water Creek Bay Bakken Pool, Dunn and McLean County, ND, so as to create and establish the following. An overlapping 1280-acre spacing unit comprised of sections 9 and 16, Township 149 North, Range 91 West, authorizing the drilling of a horizontal well on or near the section line between existing spacing units and said proposed overlapping 1280-acre spacing unit, and an overlapping 3840-acre spacing unit comprised of sections 2, 3, 4, 9, 10, and 11, Township 149 North, Range 91 West, authorizing the drilling of a horizontal well on or near the section line between existing spacing units on said proposed overlapping 3840-acre spacing unit, and or such other and further relief as appropriate. This case is continued to July. Moving on. Case number 29367. Application of Slauson Exploration Co. Inc. for an order amending the field rules for the Big Bend Bakken Pool so as to create and establish a 160-acre spacing unit comprised of the south half of the southeast quarter of Section 21 and the north half of the northeast quarter of Section 28, Township 152 North, Range 92 West, Montreal County, ND, for additional completion operations in the Fox 2-28 well, file number 20855, and such other and further relief as appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Lawrence Bender, P.O. Box 1855, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this matter, case 29367, on behalf of Slauson Exploration Company, Inc. Slauson intends to call 3 witnesses in this matter. Mr. Chris Manning will be offering some land testimony. Mr. Dylan Dozel will be offering some geologic testimony, and Mr. Will Miller will be offering some engineering testimony. These witnesses will appear by telephone, and they are on the telephone as we speak.
All right, and the first was Mr. Manning.
Correct.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Pardon me?
Oh, you can go ahead.
Okay, Chris, would you state your full name for the record, please?
Chris Manning,
And Chris, by whom are you employed?
Slauson Exploration Company,
In what capacity?
as land manager.
And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
Yes.
Had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Thank you. Chris, let's skip the cover page, let's skip the table of contents and go to Exhibit 1. What I would like you to do, Chris, please, is identify Exhibit 1 and then briefly discuss what's contained on that exhibit.
Sure. Exhibit 1 is a location map depicting the Big Bend Bakken field and outlined in black. And on that plat, we have both of the, the original DSUs. The 640 for Zulu is in orange on section 21, and the 640 unit for Fox is in pink, section 28, right below that. And then you will see in the dashed green, that is the proposed 160-acre
overlapping spacing unit that we are applying for with this application for the commission.
Okay, let's go to Exhibit 2.
Exhibit 2 shows the working interest ownership schedule for the Fox unit. That's the unit to the south, and on the previous exhibit. You can see that Slauson has, and et al., that Slauson are affiliate, and contractual supporters, 47.78% interest, and then the balance of the parties making up 100% for the unit.
Okay, and Exhibit 3.
Exhibit 3 is for the Zulu 640-acre unit, which is the unit in Section 21, north, depicted on Exhibit 1. And again, Slauson's interest combined is a 52.44%, and then the remainder of the other working interest parties making up the interest in Zulu.
And it's my understanding, Chris, and we're going to have other witnesses get into this in a little bit more detail, but Slauson is proposing utilizing an existing well to recover these reserves on this proposed 160-acre spacing unit. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And Slauson currently operates that well. Is that correct?
Yes, Slauson operates the well, and Slauson also operates the Zulu unit.
Okay.
So both units and the well are.
No further questions for the land witness.
Are there any questions from commission staff?
Chris, this is Bruce Hicks. On the working interest, you're listing that of the both of the units here. How about the mineral interest? Is it common across?
The mineral interest is going to be diverse across. It doesn't match up exactly, no.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from staff? Seeing none. Mr. Dozel, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Dylan, state your name for the record, please.
Dylan Bolton,
And Dylan, by whom are you employed?
Boston Exploration Company.
In what capacity?
Geologist?
And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
Yes, I have.
And you've had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Dylan, let's go to the next exhibit in the packet. It's been previously marked as Exhibit 4. Could you please identify Exhibit 4 and then discuss what's contained upon it?
Yeah, Exhibit 4 is a structure map contoured on the top of the upper Bakken Shale. Contour interval is 20 feet, and dip is approximately 1 degree to the west-southwest. The location of the type well used in the next two exhibits is symbolized by a red star.
All right, let's go to Exhibit 5.
Exhibit 5 is an induction log and a porosity log from a nearby pilot hole. The relevant well in this case is the Fox 2-28H. The lateral in that well targeted the lower Bakken Shale. That well is now reaching an economic limit, so Slauson is interested in attempting a recompletion uphole in the middle Bakken and the Lodge Bowl. Both those formations are labeled on the logs.
Okay, and Exhibit 6.
Exhibit 6 is a magnetic resonance log from the same pilot hole as in the previous exhibit. I wanted to include this exhibit to show why we're interested in the Lodge Bowl recompletion and not just middle Bakken recompletion. This log is useful because it can differentiate the type of porosity that is present, unlike the porosity log on Exhibit 5. The tracks on this log from left to right, there's a gamma ray track permeability, porosity, and then a time distribution track. The permeability and porosity values are derived from the green signatures in the far right track. Signatures to the right of that red vertical line, that's interpreted as free fluid porosity, while anything left of that red line is considered bound fluid or unproducible fluid. You can see that a little bit better on the porosity track, where the free fluid porosity was represented by a pink curve. Bound fluid and total porosity, they're also displayed on that track. I think this log is clearly showing elevated permeability and porosity in the bottom 50 or so feet of the lodge pole. And while total porosity is very low in the lodge pole, the amount of free fluid porosity in the lower lodge pole is fairly high, or higher than one might expect. I'm interpreting this as the oil drive from the Upper Bakken Shale up into the overlying lodge pole. That process would have created overpressuring and microfracturing, and then consequently the free fluid porosity that we see in the bottom of the lodge pole.
No further questions of this witness.
Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none?
Steve.
Oh, sorry.
Dylan, looking at your Exhibit 5. Sorry if you identified it before. Could you identify on this Jericho well on the porosity track where the highest productivity you believe it is?
Yeah, these traditional logs aren't maybe it might not be the best way to make a pick as far as what would be the most productive. I think Exhibit 6 would show that a little bit better. So I guess referencing Exhibit 5, it would be the lower 50 feet of the lodge pole, I think, is productive. The most productive is probably the scallion interval, and then maybe right above the false bottom. Scallion interval being the bottom 10 feet of the lodge pole.
Realize your engineering witness is going to get into this, but looking at the proposed top of the oil drive and highest perfs, it appears that you would be planning to perforate 10 feet TVD above the current stratigraphic limits for the Big Bend Bakken pool. Is that correct?
We understand that the top of the oil drive is probably about 60 feet above the upper Bakken. The current definition of the Bakken pool is 50 feet. We discussed possibly bringing a future case in front of the commission to extend the Bakken pool. If work would be started on this before doing that, we would certainly limit our perfs to stay within the current definition of the Bakken pool.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from staff? Seeing none. Mr. Miller, are you on the line?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Will, would you state your name for the record, please?
William Miller,
And Will, by whom are you employed?
Slauson Exploration Company,
In what capacity?
senior reservoir engineer.
And in that capacity, have you testified before the commission previously?
Yes.
Had your qualifications accepted as that of an expert?
Yes.
Offer the further testimony of this witness that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
Thank you. Will, let's go to Exhibit 7 in the packet. First identify that exhibit, and then briefly discuss what's contained upon it.
So first I'll note that Exhibit 7 was prepared by our geology witness. If there are questions related to the free fluid porosity, those might be best directed back to him. I can speak to the existing wellbore construction that's also shown on here. And this shows the curve of the current Fox 2-28H well, which, as our geology witness noted, targeted the lower Bakken shale interval. And our plan for this recompletion is actually a two-stage recompletion. The first is to come in and perforate, put a small frac on, and test the Middle Bakken zone here, which we think other wells in this unit may have also fractured to some extent, and produce additional reserves from that interval to help prolong the economic life of the well. But we also wanted to test the bottom portion of the lodge pool that falls within the Big Bend Bakken field. As our geology witness noted, there is the potential that we might bring in the future a case to extend the top of that field slightly to capture the entire extent of oil that migrated from the upper Bakken shale. Because this is planned as a two-step completion, and the first step, as will be shown on the later slide, is to produce the Middle Bakken, we would be able to be performing that first step of adding the first set of perforations and testing that production while considering whether to request an extension of the field.
Okay, let's go.
That's what I have for Exhibit 7.
Yep. Let's go on to the next exhibit, Exhibit 8.
Exhibit 8 is an aerial plat showing the specific locations of some of the desired perforations or intervals within the existing Fox 2-28H well. It shows that the deepest proposed perforation at 10,284 feet measured depth would be within the current allowed spacing of the current 630-acre spacing unit for the Fox 2-28H well, but that would only allow us to perforate 64 feet of measured depth of that Middle Bakken interval. That's only about 40% of what we want to perforate of just the Middle Bakken, and if you consider the lodgepole perforations too, it would only allow us to perforate about 25% of the interval of that well that we think has the potential to be productive. So in order to get that additional 156 feet, I believe it is, around that. They don't have the right number there. In order to get that additional 75% of potentially productive footage is why we're bringing this case for the exception overlapping spacing unit.
All right, then let's go to Exhibit 9.
Exhibit 9 is a wellbore diagram. This shows the construction and current producing tubing and rod design employed on the Fox 2-28H well for it to pump from the lower Bakken shale, where it's currently producing about 7 barrels a day.
And Exhibit 10.
Exhibit 10 is a schematic that shows how we would potentially be recompleting that with new perforations done in the curve of the existing lateral, which would also require cutting and fishing part of the liner hanger in order to properly perforate and stimulate the portions of the formation we want to access.
And Exhibit 11.
Exhibit 11 is a draft procedure for how this two-stage completion operation that I referenced in the first exhibit would be performed, in that we would go in with a mechanical cutter, remove the liner hanger, and make a scraper run down to that cut, set a bridge plug just above the top of the lower Bakken shale, and perforate and frac the Middle Bakken. We then test that, here it says for about 90 days, depending on its performance. That could be a little longer or shorter. And then we go in and do a similar recompletion, setting another bridge plug and testing the lower portion of the lodge pole. We then would go in and want to drill through both of those bridge plugs and commingle production from all three of these zones. And that commingling, I believe we have another case on the docket today, which is for approval of that commingling, given as the land witness noticed, as the land witness mentioned, there is diverse ownership here. That case is 29380 for approval of the commingling.
All right, Exhibit 12.
Exhibit 12 is a decline curve showing the current production from the lateral that's produced from the lower Bakken Shale formation. It shows that it's produced 100,641 barrels of oil cumulatively, and that its current EUR would be about 113,000 barrels of oil. As I mentioned, it's producing about 7 barrels a day currently. And our proposal in case 29380 is to use this decline curve forecast as the method for allocation on the commingling, in that we would allocate to the 160-acre spacing unit any production over and above what this decline curve forecast the well would produce from the existing production after production from all intervals has been commingled.
And Will, my packet of exhibits, I don't know if yours are the same, but I go from Exhibit 12 to Exhibit 14. Do you have an Exhibit 13?
I do not. I believe that is a typo, as in we omitted one. I apologize for that.
No, that's not a problem. Let's go to Exhibit 14 then.
Exhibit 14 are some example well economics. This is from just the recompletion interval within the Middle Bakken. This is essentially, we think we can get the equivalent of about one frac stage of a modern frac in that Middle Bakken interval from this old shale well. And so we modeled that as something that might come online at about 20 barrels of oil per day and potentially have reserves of around 20,000 barrels of oil. Using some assumptions about the incremental operating cost, 20% royalties, and current prices of about $100 per barrel WTI and $6.50 per MMBTU. That shows net sales of just under $2 million. There will be taxes to the state of North Dakota of approximately $200,000 in association with that. A net income after costs, royalties, and taxes of $1.33 million. And if that portion of the operation were to cost about $150,000, which is our estimate, it shows quite good economics with a 5-month payout and a 5.16 to 1 PV10 discounted return on investment.
All right, and Exhibit 15.
Exhibit 15 are some economics that were prepared on a somewhat more speculative basis, in that we don't really know how that perforation production from the lower lodge pole will perform, depending on the extent of the fracturing that occurred when that oil migrated up from the Upper Bakken Shale. And it is a test that we're not seeing necessarily a lot of other analogs that have been done in a similar manner in the immediate area. So I modeled some economics on what we would deem to be a successful implementation of that test. I modeled that as 10 barrels of oil per day IP incremental, producing about 8,000 barrels of oil. And using some of the same assumptions as the previous case, that shows $790,000 in sales, $80,000 of tax revenue to North Dakota. The incremental investment for this portion of the operation of about $75,000, again, produces a 4-month payout and over 5 PV10 discounted return on investment.
Okay, and Exhibit 16 is a gas capture affidavit in the event that the commission deems this to be an increased density well. Is that the purpose for this exhibit?
Yes.
Will, in your opinion, will the requested relief prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
Mr. Examiner, I have no further questions. We offer each one of the exhibits that were referenced by the 3 witnesses.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Will, given the current stratigraphic limit for the Bakken pool, would you be restricting your fracs to the 50 feet TVD above the Upper Bakken?
Given the current limit, yes. If we're to do that lodgepole recompletion before to potentially amend that field boundary, as I indicated, since the portion of the operation contemplated first is the perforation and frac of that Middle Bakken interval, I think there is a pretty strong likelihood, if we're still evaluating it, that we may bring a case to extend that boundary. But in the event that we were to perform the lodgepole frac or the lodgepole recompletion, before that, we would limit it to the base 50 feet of the lodgepole.
So is the lodgepole stimulation dependent on the outcome of your Middle Bakken frac and test?
I believe the timing of it likely is, just depending on how successful that middle Bakken is, we might continue to produce that for longer than the 90 days contemplated in the draft procedure. I don't think that whether we ultimately proceed with it is dependent on the middle Bakken.
What size of a frac would you have planned for the lodgepole?
I don't have a firm answer for that yet. It's something that I think maybe our geologist can speak to a little bit, but I think he would want to meet with our completions team and work on that more prior to us submitting a procedure, and I believe we would probably do that in a sundry application.
And then either Will or Dylan, have either of you done any frac modeling for what you might expect for half lengths in the lodgepole if you were to proceed with the frac?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions from commission staff?
Well, this is Bruce Hicks. So it appears what you would do is test the middle Bakken that is behind 7-inch right now. Then you would move up, test the lodgepole separately after fracking it, and then after an additional 90-day production period, drill out all bridge plugs all the way to TD, and you would essentially be producing the lodgepole, the middle Bakken, and the lower Bakken shale simultaneously, right?
Yes, that is our request. I don't know that the clean out at, I know the procedure indicates clean out to TD. We'd certainly want to knock out both those bridge plugs, but we might suspend the operation prior to reaching total depth on that lower lodgepole, just depending on the state of the hole conditions we encountered during the clean out.
Okay, but it would be your intention to produce part of that lateral in the lower Bakken shale, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you talk about commingling, although it appears that you would stay within the current Bakken pool. So it would really be an allocation that you would try to come up with for different producing spacing units, right?
Correct, and that is what I was trying to reference, that other case 29380, that is a request for an approval of the commingling method based on decline curve analysis that I referenced when discussing Exhibit 12.
So if it's possible to produce a portion of this middle Bakken behind pipe, you know, as you indicated on Exhibit 8, why should that production go to this 160 that you want to create versus the existing 1280?
Because the cost of the proposed operation would be borne by any of the 160-acre owner units who are participating in that new operation to remove the portion of the casing and add those perforations, and it is within the standard boundaries of a 160-acre unit deeper than the Mission Canyon.
If this proposal was granted, are there a number of these that you would plan to do the same type of completion in?
I think the completion of the Middle Bakken interval is somewhat unusual here, in that this was a lower Bakken shale test well. It was the only one of these that we drilled, and as such, especially with its off-lease surface location, we felt that it was getting near its economic limit, that the potential for Middle Bakken completion in that curve interval presented an opportunity to extend the economic life of the well. If the lodgepole were to be successful, I think that could present opportunities for a number of other either uphole recompletions prior to plugging wells, or potentially even for unconventional development, just depending on how that test goes, which is why we want to do the test.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none, anything further on this matter, Mr. Bender?
Nothing further.
And that will conclude the hearing in case number 29367. Moving on, case number 29430, application of Hess Corp. for an order for the Sorkensbakken Pool to establish an overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit consisting of sections 2, 3, 10, and 11, Township 157 North, Range 93 West, Lateral County, ND, and authorize the drilling of one horizontal well on or near the section lines between the existing spacing units of said proposed overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit and granting such other and further relief as may be appropriate. This case is dismissed. Case number 29431, application of Hess Corp. for an order for the Sorkensbakken Pool to establish an overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit consisting of sections 14, 15, 22, and 23, Township 157 North, Range 93 West, Montreal County, ND, and authorizing the drilling of one horizontal well on or near the section lines between the existing spacing units of said proposed overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit, and granting such other and further relief as may be appropriate. This case is dismissed. Case number 29289, application of Foundation Energy Management, LLC, for an order amending the applicable orders for the Bicentennial Bakken Pool to authorize the recompletion and production of one vertical well and two horizontal wells in a 640-acre spacing unit consisting of the sections 28, Township 144 North, Range 103 West, Golden Valley County, ND, and for such other relief as may be appropriate. This case is continued to July. Case number 29365, application of Bowline Energy, LLC, for an order amending the field rules for the Buffalo Wallow and/or Belief Bakken Pool, McKenzie County, ND, so as to create and establish an overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit comprised of sections 4, 5, 8, and 9, Township 148 North, Range 100 West, authorize the drilling of a horizontal well on or near the section line between the existing spacing units of said proposed overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit and such other relief. This case is dismissed.